In a legal blow, Google has lost its antitrust battle with Epic Games. A federal jury found that the tech giant acted unfairly as a monopoly in the app market. The decision was made unanimously after 4 hours of deliberation. In a blog post, Epic wrote that, quote, today's verdict is a win for all app developers and consumers around the world. Yahoo Finance's Dan Howley joining us now with more. Dan, I know you've been following this very closely. What's your reaction, I guess, to the ruling and what this means more broadly speaking, not only for Google, but obviously for the other tech giant out there, Apple?
Yeah, it's interesting because Apple didn't get stung like this. This is something where, Apple was told that they weren't necessarily operating as an anti-competitive monopoly, but that's not the case here with Google. So, just to run some facts over with regards to Google and how it's a little bit different than what Apple's doing is Google does allow third-party app stores to be installed on their devices. That's not something you can get with Apple. So it's interesting to see this ruling with regards to Google. Now, to install those app stores, you do have to go through a special process in the settings menu, and Google does kind of issue a cryptic warning about how, if any damage happens to your phone or your data, then that's all on you, and they're kind of wiping their hands of it. So that's something to keep in mind there. But, when it comes to this actual ruling and what it means for Google's overall business, well, it's not really going to impact them a whole heck of a lot when you consider that the vast majority of their revenue is based in search, right? So they don't break out exactly the numbers for the Google Play Store, but search is their primary means of building revenue. And so while this is a blow, it's certainly not the end all be all. I think it's worth pointing out, though, that when it comes to Play Store revenue or Apple's App Store revenue, games are a huge part of that. And that's because of the kind of not necessarily recurring revenue model, but to a degree it's recurring, where gamers will use funds to purchase in-game items or in-game currency to purchase in-game items. So that kind of spending is important as far as the Play Store itself goes. And so if they end up losing out on that, as well as that commission that they charge through App Store sales, well, then that is going to impact at least their Play Store revenue. Again, that's not going to be a huge heck of a chunk overall for Google, but for Play Store, it is going to be an issue. Now, what happens at this point? Well, they have to come up with some kind of remedy. Google is undoubtedly going to appeal this. This could all take years and years. Don't expect this to be resolved overnight or anytime soon, for that matter, unless Google does decide to make some concessions and say, sure, go ahead, install whatever you want on your phones.
Yeah, this is where appellate courts perhaps have some of their best and most fun days, I guess, Dan. Ultimately, though, when we think about some of the analysts that are out there, too, what's been the reaction from the street?
Yeah, it really hasn't been all that bad. I mean, it's not necessarily something that, people are freaking out about. There's discussions on how from Wells Fargo's Ken Gawrylski basically saying, Apple's anti-steering provisions were proved to be anti-competitive, but not its app ecosystem. We have KeyBank analyst Justin Patterson basically saying that the ruling is not a surprise. The presence of favorable deals for certain app developers represented a key distinction. And then we have Andrew Urwitz basically saying, while there might be appeals to this ruling, it's a potential turning point for game companies to better market content and process their own payments for reduced take rates and better margins. So that is something that's good for gaming companies. It's also something that's good for one of Google's big rivals, Microsoft. What they've been trying to do is get their Xbox Game Pass as a standalone app in competing stores, whether that's Apple or Google. And so this kind of ruling kind of allows them to move forward and say, yeah, we're going to get our apps on everything, and then you're going to be able to play games through Xbox Game Pass. And why would you want to go to an app store like the Play Store or the Apple App Store if you can just use ours and get Xbox quality apps on your phone through that?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, something that we're going to continue to watch if there's even more of an appellate process to this. Dan, thanks so much for keeping tabs on the story.